I'm Heather Wenzel-Sullivan, and you're listening to You Unpacked, the quirky travel podcast that gets off the beaten path and into what really matters about travel. In Season 1, we focus on Italy, in recent travel experiences, and reflect on Italy travel in the early 2000s. We make mistakes, laugh at ourselves, and tell stories about travel that has shaped our lives. Consider reviewing us if you like our content, or check us out on Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, or at www.youunpacked.com. Ciao ragazzi, alla prossima. All right, so what are you drinking then?
I am drinking this is GD Vajra. It's a Barolo from Garantita in Italy.
It's a Barolo from Barolo.
Yeah,
If it's a
but
Barolo.
Garantita must be the township or the specific area.
Okay, all right. I've got
It's
that white.
This is a 2021, so.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think I had that before. I've got that white from Sicily that you sold me last time I was there. It's delicious.
Is that the without?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good.
Not at all sweet. It's perfect. Yeah, so thanks so much for chatting with me. I'm super excited about this conversation. And the comment that you made before we started recording about who wired the lights in your living room 20 some odd years ago made me think that you were the right person to talk with about something that happened, I'm going to say 24 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Yeah. So, because you have a much better long-term memory than I do. So,
Nicole actually was just standing here being like, I'm excited for this.
yeah, it's going to be fun. So, I'm going to set the stage very briefly, and then I'm hoping that you will introduce yourself and say a little bit about yourself. And then I'm really hoping to just see what you remember, and we can take a trip down memory lane, just focusing on the Tuscany part.
So like
Our vacation.
Siena, like that stretch before
Yeah.
we went to Naples.
Yeah, so rental car pickup, rental car drop off is what I'm
I
looking
figured
at.
that's the story you wanted. I tell that story often, so yes, I'm
Period
ready.
of time. I can't remember having heard you tell that story myself, so I'm excited. So I'm going to take us back. I'm going to take our listeners back to a time when phones were not smart, when internet cafes were a thing, and when we printed our driving directions on MapQuest. Enter circa 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so two 24-ish-year-olds set off for 2 weeks in Italy with only their wedding money in their bank account.
Pause for a minute. Only our wedding money, which we did not know how much that was. We gave everything to your mother and asked her to deposit it when she got back to Potsdam, but we didn't actually know what the exact number was.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that. I remember we looked at it very briefly when we were extremely drunk at like 2 a.m.
Yep.
And then we got up and rushed to the airport.
We rushed to brunch first.
And then the airport.
Yeah, we had that brunch, and then we went to Montreal that night. It was an overnight flight, and we flew Montreal to Heathrow. And what we didn't realize, because this was our first time really traveling internationally, was that a lot of the international airports don't announce the gate number until like they're ready to board. So you might have 30, 40 minutes. We took this overnight flight. We got to Heathrow and we had not slept.
Right?
And we had, I think, a 2 or 3 hour layover. And at this point for us, it's, 6 o'clock the next morning, but we had gotten married the night before, so we didn't go to bed till God knows when, and we were hammered when we did. So I can remember that we each took turns an hour at a time, sleeping on the bench, and the other one just waiting for the gate to change. And when it finally did, we all ran to the plane. I remember this vividly. It was not a big plane, but we get on this plane, and it's, a 2x2 maybe. I think it was 2 on each side. And we realized that everyone on this plane only speaks Italian. There's some kind of sports team that we just boarded with to get back to wherever they're from in Italy. So we take off, and through the course of a couple hours between England and Milan is where we went, we learned that this was some Italian soccer team. They had been invited to some kind of tournament. I don't remember the details now. And we get ready to land. And I'll never forget this. The pilot lands the plane, and the whole plane stands up and starts clapping. And I had never experienced people being grateful for being alive more than that moment up until then. That like sticks out to me. Because I remember looking, and you and I were both like, what is happening? Why, like, the plane should land. This is not celebrating. But it was. So we're now, you and I are in the train station in Milan because we had taken some type of transportation. I don't remember if it was a shuttle or a train or whatever it might have been, even a taxi, to get from the airport to the train station. So we're at the train station in Milan, and nothing is in English. Nothing. And this is not the days of Google. We had one of those Italian to English, English to Italian dictionaries that had like key phrases like, do you have a postcard? Or where can I buy a coffee? It didn't tell you how to navigate a train station after you'd been awake for 30 hours and have no idea where you're going because the stop you're getting off on is not a major hub. That was what took us a little bit to figure out. The trains list by start to end. So you might start in Milan and you're going to end in Rome, but there's, 30 stops in between. That's what we were missing at the outset. So when we finally figured that out, I found one that said Santa Margherita, which seemed like what was on the paperwork that weird travel agent gave us. And so we get on this train and we ride for a considerable amount of time to the point
why she wouldn't have put us in a hotel like after that, why she would have chosen to put us on a train directly after a red-eye flight.
We could have spent the night in Milan. That wouldn't have been awful.
Yeah.
Right. So anyways, we're on this train. We're on this train long enough that I remember you looking over at me being like, where are we going? I don't know where we're going. This can't be right. And I, at that very moment, was in 100% agreement with you. I had no idea where we were going. And then all of a sudden, we pull up to a train stop and it says Santa Margherita, right? Because that's where we're supposed to be going. It's part of the Cinque Terre in Italy. It's like the Italian Riviera. There's 5 towns there. I don't recall them all. Portofino is one. Santa Margherita is one. I don't remember the other one's names.
Very popular to this day.
Yes. So I see this sign, Santa Margherita. I'm like, hey, wake up. I think this is where we're supposed to get off. So, the two of us, not overly experienced in such things, just grab our bags and we get off this train. And before we know it, the train has left and we look around and we are the only 2 people in this train station. Literally, there was not another soul in sight. I remember that instant feeling of dread, like, oh my God, where are we? What is this? And you have to remember, this is not Google, this is not Uber, there's nothing like this at the time. So you have to rely on, you kind of have to figure it out.
I don't even know if we'd had we brought euros with, well, it was lira back then. Had we even brought money?
We did have lira, money? Yeah, because I remember exchanging it in the Chase Bank right around the corner from where we lived. So I had the money. It was our first stop. I had the cash for it, but we just had no idea where to go. We're literally on this empty train station platform.
And I remember it was so black and we're looking down. We're like up high and the town is down low and we can see all the lights. It was like, I don't know, 10 p.m. or something.
It was late.
And we can see the town, but you're talking like a couple miles where there's no way we could walk there.
So all of a sudden, this guy comes walking around the corner of whatever street this train station must connect to, right? And I'm sure it seemed really sketchy to him at first, but I run over and I'm like, hey, man, hey, can I use your phone? And I'm like signaling, can I use your phone to call a taxi? And he must have caught some of it because he called us a taxi. He actually did. That guy called us a taxi. And the taxi showed up, right? And they actually took us to where we were going. So I remember it's one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life. We get in this taxi, we get to the hotel, the door opens, and the dude from the hotel says, Mr. Wenzel. And I was like, oh my God, we made it. There it is.
You know what, though? The kindness of Italians, you know, all the times that I've traveled in Italy, it's one of the things that keeps bringing me back. And it's so interesting that when we start talking, I knew that when I tried to get you to stick to Tuscany, that you were going to tell this story, because I just think it was so impactful for us, you know? And the first thing that really comes out, our first...
You know what? I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. We haven't even gotten to Tuscany yet.
So two of our first experiences with Italians, one was around just the joyful, playful celebration over landing. And just, I remember that flight, just people being so into the moment and being just generally excited about life. I mean, I don't think planes crash all that often in Italy, or did back then.
But it was still kind of startling to see people celebrate.
Yeah,
like
to
that.
be so. And I think
You know?
Italians sometimes do surprise Americans because they're a little more vocal, they're a little more excited, they have more enthusiasm sometimes than we do, I think. And then the second being the absolute kindness of a total stranger who could have just kept walking and been like, look at this asshole, and instead calls us a cab. And then always in every interaction we had when we were there, I think, especially when folks found out we were on our honeymoon, just the kindness, the intense kindness of Italians.
Do you remember? I don't recall where we were and where we were going, but we got on a train and there was an older couple in the same booth with us. And somehow, I don't remember the communication. We asked each other, like, why are you here? And we explained we had just gotten married. We're on our honeymoon. And they were so happy for us. Like, I think we hugged them. And then they told us that they had been married forever. I don't recall what two locations that was between. But do you want me to get to Tuscany?
I do, but first I want you to introduce yourself. Tell folks who you are. And then I think people have probably figured out by now that you're my ex-husband, maybe. So maybe you want to share a little bit about who you are.
So my name is Jody Wenzel. I am Heather's ex-husband. I'm number one in the rankings, but I'm remarried. My wife Nicole is in the other room laughing.
She's
at the two
chuckling
of
in
us.
the background.
Yeah, the two of us bantering here. We all get along very, very well. I would venture to say that Heather and I are probably better in these roles than we were married at times. So we vacation together, we travel together, and I'm happy to recall what I can recall about this time we were in Italy. Because even just talking up till now, I remembered things that I haven't thought about in a very long time.
Yeah, thank you for that. So we're focusing on Tuscany today, partially because I just came back from Tuscany, partially because we're going to be there for a couple weeks this summer, hosting some friends and a beautiful villa that I just visited last week. So we're excited about that. I'm wondering if you can walk us through the rental car. And if I remember, getting the rental car was also a little bit challenging, to dropping it back off again, and what stands out for you about Tuscany.
It's honestly one of my favorite stories. So here we go. We take the train from Pisa. We connected in Pisa to go into Florence. So we went Santa Margherita. There was another stop. Then we went Pisa. We didn't see the tower. We just stayed on the train. And then we went to Florence. So we get off the train station in Florence. And the Florence train station is, one of the most remarkable buildings in the world. It's gorgeous. Even the one in Milan was gorgeous. This country doesn't build artistic things like that. Ours are very cold. So we get to Florence and we're We're at the train station. We're very proud of ourselves for having survived this long in this harsh environment. And we have to get to the rental car place, which, you know, we were both young, but we've rented cars before. They normally pretty easy. So we look at the address and we get in a cab and we ask him to take us there. And he takes us down like the tiniest little side street alley that I was sure was where they were going to find the bodies. We're on this dead end side street in a residential neighborhood, and all of a sudden there's a Hertz rental car place. So we go in. I think it actually might have been Enterprise. Either way, we go in. They have our reservation. They're like, "Here's your car." They gave us that Peugeot van.
Mm-hmm.
So, right.
I don't think we realized, we did not appreciate that like a van was a horrible idea in Tuscany.
European roads are very small, and people drive with flagrant disregard for their own well-being. So having a larger vehicle is not great, but at the time, even both of us thought this was not a small vehicle. Like it was a minivan.
Yeah.
So we get in this Peugeot minivan. And we're on.
How did we do that without GPS? Like, I can't even imagine. Like,
you had the map, because don't you remember arguing about the map?
Oh, that was the biggest fight we got in.
Yes, it
in
was.
A terrible, terrible fight.
Yes. So we leave Florence, and somehow we follow the signs and we get on the highway we have to get on. And it's like a major 4-lane highway for, I don't know, what, 20 miles, 15 miles, whatever it might have been.
Is what we got on.
Right. So it heads south directly towards Siena. So, but Siena's pretty close. So we get off the highway, we drive to Siena. And like, this is a medieval town. It looks exactly like it did probably 500 years ago. So it's walled. There's walls around the whole city. In fact, there's rings of walls. There's multiple layers. But when you're driving to it, it's up on a hill. And you have this Peugeot minivan. And you have to enter through a gate that was designed for horse and buggy. So, after what not arguably was our worst argument of that trip, because you were trying to read the map and we couldn't figure out how to get in, and
I can't read maps. I don't know, and I would not have been able to drive. I was totally useless.
Yeah, that was a rough one. But anyways, finally we realized that we had to just drive straight at the rock wall, and then there was a door, so we went through. They let us in.
And why she would have had us in a car be in the middle of the city to try to figure out parking, especially after having just come back from Tuscany.
That travel agent was a piece of work.
Makes no sense to me. She could have put us outside of town in a nice inn with a driveway and a parking lot.
Yes. So we get through the outer wall of Siena, which quite literally, and I'm not exaggerating, like it is a medieval town. Like the walls are still there exactly as they were many years ago. So when you get in, the roads that surround it are still carriage width, not really meant for cars. We pull in, and we were staying at the Minerva Hotel. And don't ask me why I remember that, but that is the name of the hotel we stayed at in Siena. And so I had to drive around, and I found the entrance to their parking lot, and I had to make like a 7-point turn to make that turn into their driving area, or into their parking area, because that's how tight this was. So this is my favorite part of any travel story I ever have. This next part. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, the garage.
So we park the car. We check into the hotel, and we're all excited. We're going to go explore this medieval town of Siena. We have plans to go wine tasting the next day, but we got in fairly early. Like, we weren't in a super rush. So this was maybe, I don't know, 1, 2 in the afternoon. So we leave the hotel on one of the little cobblestone streets, and there's a restaurant right here. And one of us, I don't recall who, said, maybe we should eat something. Let's check out this nice Italian restaurant right next to our hotel here. You know where I'm going now.
I do know where you're going.
So we go into this, it was a sit-down restaurant. There were regular tables, and we each order, I don't remember, pasta of some kind. I got like rigatoni or whatever. It doesn't matter. So we sit there, and then they bring us out, and this is 100% true. They bring us out plates with microwave food still in the microwave trays on the plate.
This is when we realized we're surrounded by Americans.
Like, they didn't even take it out of the dish they microwaved it in to put it on a
I
plate.
had no idea if they had just done that.
So that was our first lesson. Then we leave there after we eat this trash food and make a note to ourselves that we're not going to fall for that again.
Yeah.
We leave and we go into some shop, and I buy like the littlest thing, and the woman adds a 0 to the sale and then tells me she doesn't know how to reverse the charge to my credit card. So
And
she
really
charges
doesn't
me
speak
like
any English, or at
right,
least
no English. So
appears
she
to
charges
not.
me like $600 instead of 60, and then gives me a bunch of cash, which was super sketchy.
We worked it out though. We got our
We did. I
money.
think it actually did work out to be fair.
Uh-huh.
But so that was our first night. I'm sorry, hold on. I'm not done yet. So in Siena, there are plazas, like, all over the place. And in those plazas are all your restaurants, your cafes, So one of the best memories I have of Siena is we went to one of those cafes, and it was like midnight,
Yeah.
1 o'clock in the morning. And we sat at a cafe that was still bustling, and we ordered a bottle of wine. And we both commented on the fact that there were women walking by doing laundry. There were little kids outside. Like, everybody was playing, and like, this was a totally normal occurrence. Then you threw the bottle of wine on the ground, and it shattered
I had
everywhere.
a little too much to drink and knocked the bottle of wine off the table. It was mortifying. I don't think anybody cared.
Nobody cared. But just, I remember that moment of like, this is a different life than we live in the US.
Yeah.
The pace of life here is just different. And
Even
it's
before
enjoyable.
cell phones. Because I feel like now it's remarkable because you just notice the less cell phones in Europe. But even then, the way that we were living was so different.
I mean, yes, but there was a museum in that square that we sat in that night that we might have visited earlier in the day or maybe the next day, but it had a Bernini in it, which, that's probably a $5 million painting, but because he painted it on the wall of this church, it's just there. You can just go look at it, and that was one of the biggest things I took away from a lot of that experience that year was there's just incredible, very old artwork everywhere. And we're all familiar with the big pieces, your Mona Lisa, your
David.
Monet, your Manet. But if you just go and look at churches in general in Italy, like
Well, the
some of the most
Duomo has
gorgeous
got a
artwork is
Michelangelo
just
in
on
it.
the walls. Yeah.
Yeah.
I found that amazing. Second day we were in Siena. We had decided we're gonna go wine tasting. And like, we didn't have Google, and we researched it a little bit. In retrospect, like, we were woefully unprepared to do this.
Well, I think, this is the one thing that I was thinking about in prepping for this conversation. I think we were so busy moving home from Boston and preparing for the wedding. And we thought we had this great travel planner that we didn't really, I think we might have had one book on Italy. We were not
Do you
really
remember what her
researching.
name was? I don't remember her
No.
name. But if you
In
said it, I would
Brookline
know it.
Village, she had that
Yes.
space,
Yes.
and we'd have to physically go there. We had all these meetings with her, telling her what we wanted to do. Like, and she was so lucky because we never called her to say, like, you plan. I mean, it was the most amazing vacation, but she was like the worst travel planner ever.
Yes.
So we were just like, this is all just going to fall into place because we just spent like thousands of dollars. We were like eating ramen every night for a year because we paid this woman all this money to have this magical vacation. We had no idea what we were doing.
So second day we're there, we're going to go wine tasting because, you and I at 24 years old are super knowledgeable about the Italian countryside and traditions and how wine should be tasted. So we start driving and we get to the first winery, and at the first winery, they're like, dude, everybody in Italy goes on vacation in July.
August. Yeah.
Or August. Like nobody's around.
It's the worst time to go to Italy ever. Everyone is on vacation.
I don't know how this wasn't a prominent feature in anything we looked up. But anyways, so we can only go to some of the major wineries, like some of the big ones. And I apologize. I don't recall which ones they were.
We had our best wine tasting at that wine outlet. You remember?
Yes.
On the side of the road?
Yes. But my favorite part of that day was we were driving through Tuscany. And we ended up in the town of Chianti de Castellini. And we went to that restaurant in town. And this was a little tiny town. And we sat inside and we couldn't read a damn thing on the menu, and nobody spoke a word of English, but we just pointed to stuff that we wanted. We were just like, can I have that and that? And they brought us these amazing cheeses and some amazing food.
I feel like there might have been some potted meat, like
there. Yeah. But I associate that moment with the point where I decided that you have to immerse yourself and experience where you are. That was the moment where I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I'm here. We don't speak the same language, but like I'm having a moment with these people and this is amazing. So I do associate that trip and that specific time with that.
And they were so kind to us. And you think about how that would go in the U.S. If we walked into a restaurant in the U.S. and we're like, we don't speak any English, we wouldn't be getting any service.
So we leave there, and it must have been that night that we had that dinner.
I know.
Right? So it must have been that night. So we go back to our hotel, we get changed, we have dinner reservations in a restaurant in the basement of the Museum dell'Opera in Siena. I don't know why I remember that, but I very vividly do. And we go in, and you have to, these are medieval style stone buildings. So we get there, and you have to go down this little staircase to get downstairs. We go in, and they sit us at a table, and there's a wall right here. Like, I can envision this. Like, the two of us are sitting here. And back over there, there's a table of like 5 people, and they're clearly American. They're being super obnoxious. And waiter comes over. We order drinks. I don't recall. Oh, no, that I do recall. That was the restaurant where he told us about the wine features. And when I asked where one of them was from, he pointed out the window and said, over there. So yes, that's the best wine recommendation I ever had. But so we order drinks, whatever. We're sitting there, we're interacting with him as we order courses, because that's what you do over there. And that table of Americans in the back is just being a bunch of jackasses. It was something about a salad.
I think they brought the salads at the end of the meal.
Yes, that's what it was.
They wanted their salads at the beginning.
I remember the guy saying, well, in America, we do it like this. And the waiter snapping back, well, you're not in America right now.
Yeah.
And when our waiter came back over the next time, we were like, we are so sorry. Like, I hope you don't judge everything by that. And we had to do that several times over the course of that trip.
We saw so
But-
many Americans acting horribly on that trip.
But every time when we didn't act horribly, they brought us limoncello.
Well, we were honeymooners, so we got like really special treatment. Like if you ever want to get good treatment in Italy, I think saying that you're on your honeymoon would probably yield you with more kindness.
Where were we when we ordered the grappa and the guy told me that the sweet grappa was only for the ladies?
That was the first night.
Yes,
I
out
think.
on the pier when we had the lasagna and the boy was
Yeah.
fishing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Yes.
I was so excited about having grappa. I don't know why, because it's made from grapes. I just had the assumption that it was going to be this like really grapey, sweet
It's
liqueur.
like so boozy, and you just about died.
We'd been up for like 3 days by that point.
I remember.
So okay, we have to get back
you
to
take
the
a big sip
entree.
and you're like,
We have to get back to the entree in
Okay.
Siena because this is the best meal of my life, hands down.
so we're at this restaurant in the basement of the Museum d'Opera, and they have a dish that's, I mean, I guess you would compare it to a beef Wellington today, but it was a piece of meat with cheese on it inside a pastry, and it had sauce with it. And, you know, we were both fairly cultured, and we had eaten fancy shit before. You know, this was absolutely the best piece of food I've ever put in my mouth in my entire
Well,
life.
you know, the Tuscans their beef is very famous. So I think that is a part of it. But also there was this magical thing that happened with the puff pastry that was around the steak. And then I think there was prosciutto, crudo inside, and some sort of
It was a soft cheese, like a brie. It wasn't a brie, but it was like maybe
soft-
Taleggio.
really
Yeah.
melty cheese. But that the puff pastry was so crisp all around. Like usually you get a Wellington and the puff pastry is kind of soggy, right? It's almost impossible to avoid it. Somehow they had like magically created this meat puff pastry that was crisp in
it's
every
perfect.
location.
Yes. Yes. I still remember that meal vividly. I think that was one of the first meals I was ever like, holy shit, I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life. Like,
Yeah.
and then, well, before we actually went to dinner, we went up to the top of the Museum d'Opera because they have like a turret up there, and you could see the whole Tuscan landscape. They say it looks like an ocean that froze, and it does. It's just like all undulating waves in every direction. The land just very, very cool. The day we went up to Chianti, though, the few vineyards we were able to stop at, we did ship wine home. We shipped it as olive oil, but we did ship wine home.
About how much of the Duomo do you remember?
Give me a little primer here.
Okay, so we're looking at the outside of the Duomo, and this is really almost creepy, I think. So I was just there 2 weeks ago, right? And so I did a quick Duomo tour thinking that we would want to do it this summer and wanting to find a good guide, which I did. She was wonderful. So we're standing outside the Duomo, and in the top part of there's a triangle with lots of gold in it. You know, it's a fresco, lots of gold, just a beautiful, beautiful scene. And so here I am taking a picture of it with my camera, kind of close up. I don't know why. Like, I know I'm going to be back there in a couple of months. There's a million pictures of the Duomo. You can look at them online. You remember the Duomo has all the zebra type black and white, right? That's the theme there. So I come home and I want to chat with you about Tuscany. So I find our album. I thought I had it somewhere. I finally found it, which of course is a bunch of terrible under or overexposed pictures that are really far away. And the pictures in Tuscany, there's not a single one of you or I. It's all landscapes. There's a close-up of that triangular fresco, or whatever you call it when you paint on the outside of a building. I could be misnaming this. The same exact shot that I took 2 weeks ago. And it just, I don't know why, it kind of creeped me out. I was like, that is so weird. But if you remember, when you go inside, the floors are typically covered. They only uncover them for a short period of time in the summer. Were the floors uncovered when we were there?
Yes.
They were, right?
They were, yes. 100%
Because
yes.
I think they do it around that time of year, and that's the only time they're uncovered. I remember us being able to see them uncovered.
Yep, they were definitely uncovered.
You know, it's interesting because the tour that I went on also included the Basilica Caterina, and I don't know whether we went there or not. I don't think we did. We didn't pay
Where
for
is that?
much. I don't think we were there. I don't think we went there, and it just kind of made me think about how much we missed
Oh yeah,
despite filling our
100%. We were so
time.
inexperienced at the time, though. You know, we were
Well, and
trying to do the best
also
we could.
I think that there's just so much. So I spent what, 9 days in Tuscany with a car and could go anywhere that I wanted. And I left with more places that I wished I had been able to go than the places that I went to. Even as much as I'm on my phone checking things out, I'm in Chusi eating at a restaurant because it's on the way back to my Airbnb, not even realizing that there's Etruscan ruins underneath that I could have gone into a museum and then gone into tunnels to see the like you're not even appreciating like what's all around you. It's such a small piece. I was reading something last week about the shepherd paths that are in Tuscany from ancient
Oh yeah,
times
they're still there.
and the Roman roads and like all the things that were happening all around you that you can't even like fully appreciate.
When we were in Tassa del Mar, seeing that part of the Roman road was very, very cool up on the mountain.
Yeah. Okay, so we have our big steak dinner. What did you get for dinner that night? Do you
I
remember?
don't remember. It was some kind of pasta. I was mad.
That you didn't get the steak.
Yeah, yeah. So we have dinner. We go to bed that day. And I think the next day we head back. We're going to head to Rome here. But we have to make our way back to Florence, drop the rental car off, and then get to the train station.
And you don't fully explain, I don't think, how terrifying driving was out of Florence and back into Florence when we are using a map only.
And we have a standard Peugeot van. Yes, yes. Luckily, I could drive standard, but... So we come back into Florence, and Florence is a very, very old city. And its signature, skyline... Its signature skyline has the 4 bridges across the river, right? So you come in... And in our time, without Google Maps or anything, we're trying to go from a paper map. So we're driving in, trying to figure this map out. Florence is enormous, and it's so compact, and it's so populated. So we're trying to figure out how to get to the rental car place. And we end up just driving around Florence, getting in these traffic circles, not being able to get out. We have no idea how to get back to the rental car place. We're just trying to find this address.
It's on this random side street.
Right. It's on this random side street. And finally, after a very long time, probably at least a couple hours.
That was a while.
I pull over and I'm like, I'm just going to hire a taxi to go to this address and we're going to follow him. And I looked up and it said Hertz right there. Literally right there. I was like, I guess we're here. And we dropped the car off. We got on the train and we left for Rome. But that was a nightmare getting back. Driving at that time was really hard there was no Waze, there was no Google Maps. So if you were in another country, it was very difficult to get around without just a paper map.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that even driving myself in Tuscany over the past couple of weeks with GPS, I was feeling like when I got home, the roads were so luxurious because you don't think that you can get through, but you can. It's possible,
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like. So I really didn't feel like until day 4 or 5, I was really able to turn the music up and relax and drive like I would at home because you're just constantly so worried about hitting something.
So where we're going, Castellino del Lago, how is that? Is it about the same?
Yeah. Castiglione del Lago, that area is exactly the same driving wise. There's tons of rotaries, super, super tiny lanes, and the parking in these medieval towns is really challenging. Yeah. So, I was driving up into Castiglione del Lago, and there's a great little parking area there. And I had been there a couple days before. So I'm like, great. I know how to use the meters now. It doesn't take my card, but I had plenty of change, which worked perfect. And it was market day. Wednesday is market day there. So the tents were taking up all of the parking. So I had to go up behind, like on the side of the city. And it's this tiny little parking area. And I'm always so worried that I'm going to get in, there's no spots. And then how do I turn around? So there's this backhoe and this big truck on the side. So you're already so far in that you're like, I have to keep going, right? Because I can't back up, but I don't know if I can fit. And so I have like an inch on each side. But of course, everybody else has been doing this all day. So you just got to do it, you know? So they have a word for when people kind of hit each other, like kissing. When you give each other a kiss, like as you kind of hit each other, bocce is kisses.
Oh.
So hitting each other along the way. But of course, in a rental car, that's not so cool. So I, over the course of the 9 days, hit a couple of curbs. I mean, it's pretty impossible not to. And so I noticed on the front bumper, there was a couple marks, and I was thinking, oh man. And it's like old school car rental there. They walk around the car and inspect it. It's not like you drop it off like it is in the US now. But that car was so covered in dust from all the dirt roads. They never could have seen anything on it anyway. So I got back scot-free. But yeah, the driving is still interesting.
When we were in the Azores 2 summers ago, we picked up the rental car and we drove over to our hotel to go and get our bags. In the 15 minutes we were in the hotel, somebody sideswiped our rental car.
Oh, no.
We had it less than half an hour. We come out with our bags and we're like, oh my God. And they caught the front panel, the door, and the rear panel.
Oh.
Luckily, we had taken the full insurance package, and then 2 days later, I got sideswiped again.
I felt really lucky just to make it the 9 days without any problems, for sure. For sure.
So that's my recollection of Tuscany. I hope that was helpful to you.
It was very helpful. Thank you. Maybe we'll get together again and talk about our other 3 stops on that crazy whirlwind trip.
I gave you a little bit of it, but yeah, anytime. Let me know.
All right. Okay. Have a good night. Good night, Nicole. Bye.